we move on, speaking of Canada, to Canada's game against Guatemala. And this one is another. When I mentioned Honduras bias, that was nothing compared to the bias you're about to hear against Guatemala. Another very, I would say, lopsided match here.
Damn straight. Damn straight.
Guatemala Guatemala are obviously very happy, very proud to be in the quarterfinals here, and they should be. It's no easy feat to get to the quarterfinals, especially out of the group that they were in. But yeah, I mean, they're playing the arguably, like I said, number 1 or 2 team in CONCACAF right now in the tournament against Canada. And I don't see Guatemala being able to do much, right? Guatemala rely heavily on their defending, and yeah, as you should, if you can, against these big teams. That's what you need to do. That's what they did against Jamaica. And they were I can't say that great against Guadeloupe defensively, but they need to show up here on defense. And I don't think they're not going to. I think they're going to play with passion. They're going to play with a good defensive ability. My issue, I think, is the attack against Canada. You put, was it 3 against Guadeloupe? 3, right? You put 3 against Guadeloupe. And I can't say, I mean, good on you, but I can't say that's really because they were so good attacking-wise. I think more so it's Guadeloupe. Obviously, we've seen it. Can't defend for their life. I don't really see Guatemala being able to put a whole lot up against Canada here to really threaten Canada. One thing I will say, though, in Guatemala's favor, Canada are not good in hostile environments, both on the pitch and in the stands. Canada are not very good against teams that play, for lack of a better term, dirty and rough. Which I do think Guatemala are going to do, and that's what you kind of have to do against this Canadian team. Canada gets really frustrated early when you're being very physical on them, whether that's with fouling, which is probably going to happen, fairly or not, called fairly or not by the ref. I see Guatemala coming out here and being very brutal against Canada, and you have to make Canada uncomfortable, and that's how you do it. So Guatemala I can't say it's going to be a 100% guarantee that Canada's going to win here, but if Guatemala want to win, I think they really have to take it to them physically and really not let them get going in any capacity. And that's how you do it if you can't match up to them technically. Joaquin, your thoughts, though, before we move on to Andres' final Guatemala bias here. Let's keep some semblance of realism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think as long as they don't get 2 red cards straight away, like if another team did, I think they might have a chance. But I feel like, yeah, I mean, it's going to be Canada. They have the stronger team on paper, and I think they'll be able to beat Guatemala relatively easily. So, I mean, there's not much else to say.
Yeah, a confident man he is. Andres, now, wait, let me put a disclaimer right here again. If you weren't watching the live, you're about to hear some stuff. All right, Andres, please.
Look, Guatemala is lucky to be here. You know what I mean? They're lucky to be here. They're lucky Jamaica is so shit. Let's be real here. This is a fluke of a run that's happening right now, and let's be real. This is not going to go their way on Sunday night for sure. This is Sunday games, right? I'm not tripping.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Guatemala. The only reason why they're here, and someone said this in a video, reflecting on the Jamaica Guatemala game, is their fans. Their fans are very loud. There's a lot of Guatemalans everywhere in the United States, and I'll give credit to them, despite me having beef with a particular fan while we were at the game. But I'll give credit to them. But, they're carrying this team and pushing them when they need to, and they're basically have home field advantage here. Guatemala. That's huge because you're right. Canada do struggle in hostile environments, particularly against Suriname. I believe they struggled in the Nations League against them a little bit in the first leg. So I mean, they won the first leg, but whatever. It was it was only 1-0. But they struggle, and Canada's kind of stumbled their way across the finish line for the group stage. Started off strong, and then it kind of petered out, and then they could barely beat an El Salvador team with 2 red cards. It was kind
2 red cards.
2 red cards. So it was kind of weird on that end. But Jesse Marsh is back at the helm again, second game in a row, I believe. So he's probably going to make some adjustments. I just don't think Guatemala really have anything that they can threaten Canada with, because if you watch the Guadeloupe game, they struggled to beat Guadeloupe convincingly. If it wasn't for Guadeloupe just being worse than Guatemala at just defending and being good at football in terms of passing the ball when they should, we could be talking about a much different scenario here. I was more watching the Guadeloupe game than I was watching the Jamaica game on the live, because it was just woeful that speaks more to Jamaica. Anyways, I just don't really see Guatemala doing anything. I'm not gonna lie. Attacking wise, if they're lucky, they can get something going. If they're lucky, they have some moments of brilliance, but other than that, maybe stay on sides a few times. That would probably help them out a little bit. Defensively, I mean, leaky goals against Guadeloupe. Like, Guadeloupe can score, but like you should not be conceding 2 goals to them. Panama, you got to. So we talked about Panama, correct? And talking about how they're pretty defensively sound, like half a step below Canada, 2 steps below Canada. Well, Panama made them look like children in the sense of that they didn't allow anything happening in that game. Like, it was Panama. We were talking about domination. They know how to take care of easier opponents when they take the lead, and I think they had like 3 shots in total. 1 was on target, like the entire game. They didn't have a shot registered in the second half on target at all, or a shot, I believe. So if Canada can just lock them down, which I know they can, because Canada are a way better team than Panama to an extent, I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a Jesse Marsh like done and dusted type situation. I don't want to see Canada struggling here to move forward. I think the crowd is going to play a factor, but I think if they can ride that first 10 minutes, I think of, when we were there at the game, they're loud for the first 15 minutes and then they kind of like petered out and then, they scored, yada, yada, yada. But if Canada can just kind of take the crowd out of the game, I think this is it could be like a little thumping going on, 3-1, maybe like a little mistake towards the end, 3-0.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried.
Last time they faced in the Gold Cup too, which I believe was last World Cup or Gold Cup, I'm sorry. Canada barely beat Guatemala. Like, it was close. And it didn't look good for Canada. And I know people and people are going to continue to bring that up. Oh, last time they played, history, whatever. But this Canadian team is much different than 2 years ago. It is insanely different than what we saw 2 years ago, right? And yeah, you can still say if you want to say that, but I just don't see that being a factor anymore. I don't see the last matchup over 2 years ago. But I mean, it's I don't see that playing a factor anymore. Like, yes, Guatemala's almost done it before, but way, way different team now. So I don't want to take too much time thinking about that. I don't think you should if you're a Guatemalan fan, but if you want to, that's fine too. We mentioned already the El Salvador game, that first 15, 20 minutes was fucking brutal. Like, it was actually like disgusting football to watch just because there was hardly any football being played. You're watching a fist fight between 2 teams, really just one team trying to fist fight the other. And yes, it almost worked, except El Salvador kind of went a little too far and got 2 red cards, right? So I think if Guatemala are able to replicate that minus the brutality of the red cards, you might be able to see something there, which I think is like the only thing they can do. You might be able to see something there, but Guatemala has to be perfectly brutal, if you will, to get something.
Let's play some clean football. I'm tired of seeing these scissor challenges of trying to break players' legs.
CONCACAF Gold Cup.
I know it's the Gold Cup,
this is Copa Oro.
But
this is not beautiful football.
I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? Like, I know Guatemala are capable of it, obviously, but I just hope I don't see it because Canada is chill. They don't play dirty. They're chill. I got nothing wrong with their play style. It's very entertaining to watch most of the time. And I just don't want to see anyone hurt. But I know there's a possibility that
what a nice guy.
Couple challenges could happen, and I'm like, I don't want to see Jonathan David get hurt like that. You know what I'm talking about? Like, come on now.
What a gentleman. Look at him. Guys, stop. Stop. This isn't
exactly.
you. This isn't you.
No, it is. It's
what about the Guatemala players though?
No, it's encoded in the DNA. I'm just. I can appeal to their.
You can hope.
I can hope.
You can hope and pray.
I can hope.
To finish off for the USA Costa Rica game, score predictions. I'm going to go only 2-0 here for Canada, but I think 2-0. It's going to look convincing, but it's going to be 2-0. Joaquin?
Yeah, I'm have to agree with you because if they only got 2 for a 9-man team, I mean, like, it's going to be hard. 11 people. I feel like it's going to be 2's a modest.
Okay.
3-1, baby. Like I said earlier, 3-1.
Guatemala get a goal.
They get a goal, consolation goal. You know what I'm talking about? They're just Canada gets a little sleepy. You know what I mean? And they're like, this game's over. It's 3-0, and then they're like, oh man, you got to give the crowd something. You know what I mean? So
True.
Just give them a goal, nice little consolation goal that means absolutely nothing in their World Cup run.
Quarterfinal.
Which it already is gonna end again. So just got to give them some hope.
All right. I thought Andres was gonna be a little bit more brutal in this one.
No, because yesterday I was pissed about the game, so like therefore it just kind of my filter of pure bias kind of like went out the window. And in yesterday's live stream, if you want to see more bias, go check it out. It's probably towards the end of the game is where it fully comes out, or during the game, really. Yeah. But yeah, today I have more of a lid on it, as Joaquin says. You're welcome,
Wow.
Guatemalans.